Good evening, students. So today our discussion will be on class, and class as in how we use it in Visual Basic. So as I have already given the PowerPoint presentation on it, so you can have a look at this where it says a class are at the very heart of Visual Studio. Everything we do with VB.NET is a class. So I'll be making this point very clear. Even a form is a class, and it includes the controls on the form and the code behind them. So even actually the controls like the buttons or so-called your text box, level, everything is a class. All the applications we have means in our previous examples that we have done so far has been enclosed in class and end class. But I will tell you, we have also done something called, most of the times we have been doing our coding by using something called your console application. So you haven't seen the class concept in a console application that we have done in the previous case. So what is, let me come back to all these things. So I have given you these slides so you can go through them, and I will be asking questions on them later on, but let me make things clear for now. Now if you remember, this is Visual Studio, and if you remember, this is a console application. So if you see a console application, you will see that there is module, all right, and inside the module there is the main. So if you look at this program, very simple program as I have created here, nothing much. What happened here is that we have three variables, two are of type integer and one is of type double, where we are asking nothing but two numbers. Please enter the first number, second number, and we are simply adding up those two numbers, converting into double because my results are in double, and then just printing it. Nothing happening here much because this is just the beginning. So if I run this program, it is just going to ask me two numbers. So I'm just compiling it just to show you. So now as it starts, yeah, here it is. All right, so it asks me the first number. So if I give 12, let's say my second number is 14, if I add it up, the result is coming to be 26. So that's it, it's doing. So here there is no concept of class, but here we have something called module. So when we have our console application, we have something called a module. Now this topic is not about module, but you have to understand a module bit. Why? Because if you have done this kind of application, this is nothing but a Windows application, if you remember, where you can put all these different types of buttons and all those things. So if you remember this applications like a Windows application, now you have a form over here. So if you have a form, even that form, you can see that in this in Windows application, you can see that form is nothing but it's a class. Unlike in your console application, we have something called module. We haven't used class, but you can use class. Now what is the difference between a class and a module? I will tell you very simply that a module is nothing but a static class. Now what is a static class? I will come to that also later on. So once you understand the static class, you will understand module also. But let me tell you again something more about a module. In module, if you declare or use any variables or any methods, they are like a global variables. Why? Because you cannot instantiate the object of a module, whereas in a class you create object and you instantiate them. That means every object that you will be creating of the class, you will be creating a separate set of variables for each one of them, which is not the case in module. In a module, you will create only one instance because it acts like a static class. The concept of static class will be coming on to the later class. So if you want to ask me that which is a better one, is it a module or is it a class, it depends on the scenario, but in most cases we find that class will be a better one because we can do a lot more with the classes. There are many problems with modules. For example, you cannot implement an interface. Now again, interface is something associated with class, so you can do that with a class. So there are various problems that module cannot solve. For that we have the class. So class is a better version than a module. So now you just have an introduction to what is all the basic difference between a module and a class. So if you look at this example, as I said, okay, so here it's nothing much over here. As I said, it is only asking two numbers and adding up, right? All right. So now what I want to do is that I want to ask the number 2-3 times. So what I can do is that one way to do the same program is that I will copy this code right from here. This is the part. So I'll copy, Control C, all right, and I paste it again. All right. So once. So this same code has been repeated twice. Now 3 times. So now what will happen if I run this program? So it will ask me first time, please enter the first number, then again I enter the second number, gives me the result again for the second time, right? Again for the third time. So how many times did this same code run? 3 times. But that's a repetition of the code. So how do we solve this problem? To solve this problem, if you remember, we have done something called methods. So we can have a sub procedures, we can have a function. So one way to do it is that I will copy this entire thing, right? I will cut it right now, right? Then I will create a sub procedure, sub, right? Let's say I give the name as add, right? Because this program is going to add, so I'll just paste it, right? So now I delete these, right? So if I delete till this point, okay, so now you can see that it is not recognizing these variables. Why? Because these variables are not declared here, it is declared here. So I need this variable. So one way to do it is that I can again cut this and I can paste it inside this. Fine. So now it works. Now this add is a sub procedure which is inside the module and even our main. So I need to call it 3 times. I will just call this add once, again add, sorry, add, so twice, right? Add thrice. Fine. So if now you see the amount of code that has been reduced drastically because I have used a sub procedure. That is the job of a sub procedure. What it does is that it reduces the number of repetition of your code. So now if I do that, it's going to do the same job, right? It's going to ask me those numbers 3 times, and there it is giving me the results for 3 times. Now suppose what I want to do is that I want to put this. Now what is happening, every time we are adding up these values in a separate this one. So let me do one thing, let me cut this, all right, and I paste it outside the module. All right, so now these variables are recognizable to this add also as well as for this sub procedure also. Fine. Okay. Now what I can do is that I will create another maybe method, right? So let's say sub, right? And I say input, all right? So now here what I want to do is that I want to take the input. So this is the part for input, right? So this much. So I will just copy that and I'll paste it. So I have got now two sub procedures, input and add, which are going to do one. When I call the one, sorry, it is going to ask me those numbers and the other one is going to add. So if I call just the add, it's not going to work now, isn't it? So I have to call the input, right? And then I call this add 3 times, right? Now notice what happens if I call this. So first number 12, then again 45. So what will happen? The result will be same. Why? Add has been called 3 times, but the input has been called only once. So it takes the first, it takes the values and then it adds up 3 times. So we are calling the sub procedure, right? Now the same thing we can do it by using a class, but class has got its own advantages. So I will be just okay. So now if I want to convert this program to a class, all right, so now what I can do is that if I have to call this input 3 times, I just have to call it here input, all right. So that is for separate one, and again here also input, right? Even if I do not call for this, right, so it will be taking the, if suppose I call this input once, it will take the first number, second number, add up, again it will ask, then it will add up for this also, this one also, that will remain same, right? So that's about everything is inside a module, nothing happened inside a class right now, isn't it? Now notice, as I did all these things, I have not created a single object. Now you don't know what is an object yet, isn't it? So let me tell you what I can do. The same program I will try to convert it into a class. So I will first, right? So I will create a class. So I can create a class inside this program itself. So later on I will show you how we can create external class, right, in this one. So I have a class, I have to give a valid name to the class. So let's say I give the name as calculator. Okay, so here I have a class call and it always ends with a AND class calculator, this one. Now what I will do is that I will do the same thing, but this time I will put these things, I will cut them, right? So main is there inside the module, right? So in this calculator class I have put the same thing, right? But now as I want to call them, can you see that these red lines are coming up? That's because this input add that we are looking for does not belongs to the module. It belongs to a class called calculator. So what we have to do is that if I want to use this add an input which is inside a class, then I need to create an object. So here we create an object. So dim dimension, okay. So let's say ob I give the name as, okay. So I can give the, as new, that is for instantiating, and the class name. The class name is calculator. Can you see this? Right. Now notice this icon over there. It says what? Class, PV class calculator. Can you see the similar icon somewhere else also? Because these are predefined classes that is already there in VB, but we are going to use our calculator class. Can you see that? Okay. So now OB is an object of this calculator. Now with this OB, I can call OB dot input. You see the red lines are gone. OB, right? OB dot add, again same way, OB dot input. Let's say again OB dot add, and similarly let's say I do it twice only, right? So now what is happening, you see that we have a module where the main is there, right? And we have a class called calculator. Inside this calculator class we have got some way, just same way like the way I have explained you with the so-called your module. But the best thing about a class is that we need an object to access it. So here comes the security. Previously we have just declared it and then we have used it straight away, isn't it? There was no need to create an object. So that's what is a module. You do not need to instantiate. But here in a class you need to create an object, as well as you have to instantiate it by using the keyword new. So once you have an object, with the help of object I am being able to access this input and add, which is this one. Now, there are lots of security features that is there inside a class. I can decide which method you want to access, which method you do not want to access. So if, see here I did not use any access modifier. There are different types of access modifier. For example, see, if I click over here, right, and I can make it something called, see, private, protected, protected friend, public. So many options are there. All right. So here there is only few you are seeing here, over here, because if I give, see, if I give like this, private, okay, not properties and all, protected, protected friend, public, read only. So many options you can do it. All right. So if I by chance make it like a private, all right, this input is now private. The moment I make it as a private, you'll notice that a red line comes up here. That means you cannot access. Now I can put some security features to my members of the class, whom I want the object to access, whom I don't want. For example, I have allowed add to be accessed but not the input. That's because add is not declared anything. So that is like your public or friend access. All right. So if I remove this, so you can add this kind of so-called your access modifier, which helps to bring security to your class members, and we'll be discussing a lot more on this security members. So here is a, this video is all about how you declare a class, all right, how you declare different types of methods, or you can have functions also, and this one, and how do we access it by using an object, which is different from a concept of module. All right. So thank you.